This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Monday, December 16th, 2024. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Senator Chuck Schumer says people need answers to those mysterious drones flying over New Jersey and New York. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The suspect in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is still fighting extradition back to New York and has a new high-profile lawyer.
New information on President-elect Donald Trump's pick for defense secretary.
I think he's going to get through.
I'm Pamela Furr.
ABC News has agreed to settle a defamation lawsuit filed by President-elect Donald Trump. I'm Jackie Quinn.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a mixed week. The Dow's in a slump as investors hope for another interest rate cut. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
United Airlines partners with the Make-A-Wish Foundation to fly 100 kids on a fantasy trip to see Santa. I'm Julie Walker.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Residents continue to be bewildered by the hundreds of drones seen flying over parts of New Jersey and New York over the last few weeks. And now federal officials are promising to try and get some answers. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer of New York is pushing for the federal government to send a recently unclassified radio wave technology called Robin to state and local authorities as they try to get answers on the mysterious drones buzzing the skies in parts of the Northeast.
People who have questions about these drones should not have to shake an 8-ball to get an answer.
On Truth Social, President-elect Trump also calling for answers, saying, quote, "Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know, and now. Otherwise, shoot them down." On ABC's This Week, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the government doesn't have the authority to shoot down drones unless they're confirmed to be hostile, and promised the federal government is trying to get to the bottom of it.
If there is any reason for concern, if we identify any foreign involvement or criminal activity, we will communicate with the American public accordingly.
Donald Trump's incoming national security advisor, Congressman Mike Waltz, tells CBS's Face the Nation it's clear there are gaps in the government's ability to clamp down on these drones.
Well, I think what the drone issue points out are kind of gaps in our agencies, gaps in our authorities. Between the Department of Homeland Security, local law enforcement, the Defense Department. I think Americans are finding it hard to believe. We can't figure out where these are coming from.
Congressman Jim Himes, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, tells Fox News he highly doubts the drones originated in China or Iran.
And you know what they don't do is put a bunch of drones that we could easily recover over the continental United States. The Chinese learned that lesson, of course, with their spy balloon.
Some drones have been spotted flying over potentially sensitive military installations in New Jersey, as well as Trump's golf course in Bedminster. Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh said on Friday there's nothing to worry about so far.
At no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring.
After initially starting in New Jersey, people now say they're seeing drones flying in the skies of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Republican New Jersey State Senator John Bramnick explained to CNN his own thoughts on the motivation behind it all.
What are these drones doing in New Jersey? I can tell you what they're not doing. If they're Martians, I guarantee you they're not staying because the taxes are way too high.
John Stolnis, Washington.
The man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has a new lawyer. Luigi Mangione is charged in Thompson's killing after being caught at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania days after the killing. He's now being represented by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, a prominent New York attorney and former Manhattan Chief Assistant District Attorney. Former FBI agent Jack Rupin spoke about the move with Fox News.
She's very good. I know her. I know her husband. I worked with her husband when he was a federal prosecutor when I was in the FBI. And, he has very competent counsel in back of her. And we're going to see where this goes.
Mangione's still in jail in Pennsylvania and is fighting extradition to New York. That state's governor, Kathy Hochul, says the state will do what it can to get him extradited as quick as possible. It's believed by some, including Rupin on Fox, that could happen as early as this week.
Yeah, I mean, holding up extradition at this point, Neil, it's just a formality. It's paperwork. He's going to be extradited back to New York.
Agnifilo takes the case after previously commenting on it to CNN, where she's a legal analyst.
It looks to me like there might be a not guilty by reason of insanity defense that they're going to be thinking about, because the evidence is going to be so overwhelming that he did what he did.
Mangione led police on a 5-day manhunt and was found in possession of a manifesto-type document that mentioned United Healthcare and accused health insurance companies of corporate greed. The alleged killer's previous lawyer, Thomas Dickey, was adamant about pushing back against extradition.
We wanted to make sure we were going to use the process and use the Constitution and the rights that are available to any one of us in this room and any American citizen or person charged with a crime.
Dickey was reportedly short with his client in court late last week when he said, "I'll do the talking." Agnifilo takes the case, with calls growing louder for the suspect to return to New York State. A defamation lawsuit brings a settlement between President-elect Trump and an American news network. We'll tell you which one when America in the Morning returns after this. Waking up to chances of rain across parts of the United States today. Meteorologist Matt Rendy's with us to tell us exactly where. Matt?
There will be a weak lingering storm exiting eastward today through eastern Pennsylvania and eastern New York and southern New England. There will be some colder air in parts of New York and interior New England for some wintry weather, especially early in the day. But another storm is moving in from the Great Lakes with a cold front extending all the way south into Texas. This will have milder weather ahead of it, and rain will fall from Michigan into western Pennsylvania and then southward into Kentucky, with some showers and thunderstorms forming in Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, Louisiana, and then continuing into Mississippi. A few of those storms could produce some drenching rainfall. Ahead of the front from Virginia southward through the southeast, it'll be largely dry outside of a few showers in Florida, with sunshine and a mild afternoon. Temperatures will be climbing into the 50s in the north and 80s in parts of Florida. This is generally about 5 to 10 degrees above the historical average. Behind this storm, there will be some more snow through parts of North Dakota into northern Minnesota, where a few inches will fall during the day. The next storm to enter the U.S. will be in the northwest. This has already spread rain along the coast from Washington through Oregon and into northern California. There will also be enough cold air in place for snow in the Cascades, and rain will let up for a time along the coast as moisture continues to move inland, and we'll have some rain showers and snow showers developing farther inland from Nevada into Idaho and Montana, with snow in the northern Rockies. That's the weather across America. San Francisco, California will have some rain today, especially early, with a high of 57. Hartford, Connecticut will start with a wintry mix and then change to rain with a high of 43. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rendy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Pete Hegseth, whose nomination for defense secretary is still not a done deal with senators, may be preparing to release his accuser from a non-disclosure agreement. Pamela Furr has details.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on NBC's Meet the Press says he's at a good place with Hegseth and the accusations against him.
He's given me his side of the story. It makes sense to me. I believe him. Unless somebody's willing to come forward, I think he's going to get through. Remember Kavanaugh? 5 people accused Justice Kavanaugh of misconduct. 3 were outright lies. The other 2, I think, were not credible. So we're not going to let that happen to Pete.
There have been several anonymous allegations about alcohol abuse, mismanagement of money, and a 2017 sexual assault. Hegseth reached an out-of-court agreement with his accuser in that situation that included a confidentiality clause.
Yeah, he told me he would release her from that agreement. Yeah, I mean, just think about what we're talking about. I'd want to know if anybody nominated for a high-level job in Washington legitimately assaulted somebody.
Hegseth's nomination had been getting major pushback, but the president-elect has continued to back his choice. The former Fox News host has been meeting with senators and is seemingly making headway among some potential holdouts, including Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, who says she looks forward to a fair hearing based on truth and not anonymous sources. I'm Pamela Furr.
While he didn't mention it on his Sunday show, ABC News agreed to pay millions as part of a legal settlement with Donald Trump over a defamation lawsuit. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
ABC News will pay $15 million that will go toward a presidential library for Donald Trump. Trump sued after the host of ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos wrongly asserted on air in March that Trump had been found civilly liable for raping author E. Jean Carroll. A jury in 2023 found Trump liable for defaming Carroll by claiming that she had made up a sexual encounter. In addition to payout for the library, ABC will also have to post a notice of regret on its website and has to pay $1 million for Trump's legal fees. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Wall Street trying to snap a streak that it hasn't seen in nearly 5 years. We'll tell you about it in our business report when America in the Morning returns after these messages. The Business Report brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Monday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed week for stocks last week. Today, the Dow will try to snap its longest losing streak since 2020. It's been down 7 trading days in a row. On Friday, Broadcom joined the $1 trillion club after its shares soared 20%.
You know, that's unassailable trend in the S&P 500. You're like 1% off the highs. We haven't been below 6,000 since before Thanksgiving. So that's hanging in there fine. But without the buying panic in Broadcom, it might be a different story. And we still have more stocks down than up for the 10th straight session.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Investors are hoping that the year-end rally picks up again, perhaps after the Fed cuts interest rates this week. Some say a cut is already baked into stocks, but inflation's been going up for the past 4 months. So what's the Fed going to do?
Yeah, I don't think it's an easy decision. I think on the margin, they'll probably cut, but I think we need to see demonstrable improvement in inflation from here because I want to be very cautious and deliberate after this meeting.
Former Dallas Fed president, now with Goldman Sachs, Vice Chairman Richard Kaplan on CNBC. Apple and Google have been instructed by a House committee to prepare to dump TikTok from their app stores next month. The Chinese-owned TikTok could be banned or sold in the coming weeks, as it's considered a security threat, sitting on the phones of 150 million Americans.
I have full faith that if they sold to an American company, everyone would be up and running, and we made sure that all of our small business owners would be taken care of, and we protect our national security. Listen, again, I'm all for the app as long as it's not controlled by our number one adversary who seeks to do us harm and push disinformation to our citizens and undermine our strength and national security.
New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer. Even with inflation going in the wrong direction, the holiday season's on. Americans have jobs, they're making more money, and they're spending.
This year, what we really saw is that wage growth outpaced the rate of inflation. So it's not only inflation, it's relative to what folks are getting paid. Folks were taking home real wages that they could spend, and we continued to see a consumer that spends. We think that story continues into 2025. We think wage gains will continue to exceed inflation rates.
Edward Jones, Mona Mahajan on CNBC. Coffee futures at a 50-year high because climate change has impacted coffee bean producers. Starbucks giving smaller raises to baristas and other staff, according to Bloomberg, as the chain tries to make a comeback. 7-Eleven has coffee for 60 cents a cup this morning. It's celebrating its 60th birthday. On today's watch list, we get the latest data on manufacturing in the New York region. We get the purchasing managers indexes. Volkswagen and its labor unions start up talks again today. Five Below has a new CEO this morning. Monday Night Football is a doubleheader tonight.
A trip of a lifetime this holiday season for some American families, and we'll tell you which magical destination they set out for. When America in the Morning returns, stay with us. A A shocking discovery at a house in New Mexico over the weekend. 2 adults and 2 teenagers were found dead inside a home south of Albuquerque, and under arrest is a 16-year-old boy. Authorities report they were called to the home where they found the 4 people dead and a gun on the kitchen table, and soon found the boy who made the 911 call, in their words, extremely intoxicated. The boy was arrested without incident. In the 911 call, the boy told a dispatcher that he, quote, killed his family. The teenagers being held on 4 counts of first-degree murder. For some, it was the plane trip of a lifetime. United Airlines flew some very special children and their parents on a fantasy flight to visit the North Pole. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
United Airlines partners with the Make-A-Wish Foundation to fly 100 kids on a fantasy trip to see Santa.
Who's ready to go to the North Pole?
Boarding in Denver and landing back at a hangar, they're transformed into the North Pole with Santa, elves, toys, and games, delighting Bryce Bosley.
The North Pole is fun because there's games, food.
Longtime Captain Bob Zimmerman says throughout the year he often reflects on this day.
And if we could do that every day, what a world it would be. So to see the joy in these kids when they truly believe they're going to North Pole to see Santa Claus.
Saturday's event was part of United's annual holiday season fantasy flights at airports around the world.
It gives them a day where they are away from some of the challenges they face in their day-to-day life. So bringing a little magic and some gifts to their holiday season is something they'll never forget.
I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Monday, December 16th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Syrians are celebrating since the Assad regime's fall. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Recent pardons and commutations lead to a call for reform on Capitol Hill.
A rare Central California tornado touchdown, tossing cars, uprooting trees. I'm Julie Walker.
The clock is ticking on TikTok. Rhode Island residents dealing with a massive statewide data hack, and Mitch McConnell's not so fast when it comes to the polio vaccine.
Amazon workers vote to strike on the busiest delivery week of the year. I'm Chuck Palm.
Hollywood offered nothing able to take on Moana or Wicked this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
We'll be right back. Before you head out the door in many parts of the country this morning, you're going to need to grab that umbrella, maybe a raincoat. Not everywhere, but some places. Matt Rindy's got our forecast. Matt?
The next storm to enter the U.S. will be in the northwest. This has already started rain along the coast from Washington through Oregon into northern California. There will also be enough cold air in place for snow in the Cascades. Some areas in the southern Cascades could see as much as a foot of snowfall. Rain will let up for a time along the coast as moisture from the system continues inland. That'll lead to some rain and snow showers through Nevada into Idaho and Montana, with snow forming in the northern Rockies. Another round of rain will arrive on the coast later in the day into tonight, with the heaviest centered around Oregon. Southern California into the central Rockies and southward to Arizona and New Mexico, as well as the Central Plains, will have dry weather today with some sunshine. Highs in the southwest will be close to average, while the Plain states will be on the milder side. Meanwhile, a weak storm is exiting eastward today through eastern Pennsylvania into eastern New York and southern New England. There will be some colder air for parts of New York and interior New England for some wintry weather, especially early in the day. But another storm is moving in from the Great Lakes, with a cold front extending all the way into Texas. This will have milder air ahead of it, and rain will fall from Michigan into western Pennsylvania and then southward into Kentucky, with showers and thunderstorms forming in Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, Louisiana, and then continuing into Mississippi. A few of those storms could produce some drenching rainfall. Ahead of the front, from Virginia southward through much of the southeast, it will be largely dry, outside of a few showers in Florida. With sunshine, it will have a milder afternoon, with temperatures climbing into the 50s in the north and 80s in parts of Florida. This is about 5 to 10 degrees above average. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Some Arab nations are condemning Israel's plan to expand growth in the Golan Heights, an area that some in the Middle East claim is disputed Syrian territory annexed by Israel following the 1967 Six-Day War. Meanwhile, the rapid fall of Syria has left the Syrian people free, but the power vacuum has many in the region concerned, including the United States, which wants to help form a more stable new government to replace the Assad regime. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports on celebrations in the streets and discussions in nearby capital cities as to what will come next.
We're very focused on Syria, very focused on the opportunity that now is before us and before the Syrian people to move from out from under the shackles of Bashar al-Assad to a different and better future for the Syrian people, one that the Syrian people decide for themselves.
Syrians are celebrating during the first Friday prayers since the Assad regime's fall as the U.S. looks to help stabilize the country. At Damascus's historic main mosque, one of the world's oldest, thousands gathered, with one saying Syria is now one of the world's happiest countries. Another says there's both hope and fear about what comes next.
What's happening in Syria does have an important impact, and it's very significant that Iraq, along with many other countries in the region and beyond, will make best efforts to support the Syrian people.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken's touring the Mideast to help shape Syria's transition. In Turkey, he said there's broad agreement with the U.S. on what needs to happen in Syria, starting with the interim government.
Our countries worked very hard and gave a lot over many years to ensure the elimination of the territorial caliphate of ISIS, to ensure that that threat doesn't rear its head again, and it's imperative that we keep at those efforts.
Later in Baghdad, Blinken stressed ISIS cannot be allowed to reemerge in Syria, saying Iraqis know that better than anyone.
The United States, Iraq, together had tremendous success in taking away the territorial caliphate that Daesh had created years ago, and now, having put Daesh back in its box, we can't let it out, and we're determined to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
Recent pardons and the potential promise of future pardons is leading to calls for reform. President Biden announced late last week that he's commuting the sentence of nearly 1,500 people, marking the most clemency granted by a president in a single day ever. Many of the individuals commuted were placed on home confinement during the COVID pandemic. One particular case drew criticism that a sentence commuted for a judge involved in a so-called kids for cash scheme. That, of course, after he pardoned his son Hunter of his crimes. Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders chimed in on the issue on pardons while on NBC's Meet the Press.
I think the precedent being set is kind of a dangerous one. It was a very wide open pardon, which could, under different circumstances, lead to problems in terms of future presidents.
And Democrat Amy Klobuchar was on CBS's Face the Nation.
I also didn't agree with the pardon of the president's son. I also have not agreed with a number of pardons that President Trump gave.
Now, she said the idea of pardons by a president has long been tradition and should still exist.
But we should have some kind of an outside board that governors have. Governors have the ability to give mercy to people after years have gone by, but a lot of them have boards that make recommendations.
Again, the concerns don't just surround President Biden. In response to reports that President-elect Trump could pardon January 6th rioters on his first day back in office, California Democrat Adam Schiff was on ABC's This Week.
The American people, I think, voted for him in part because they wanted something done about crime, not because they wanted to see him pardon criminals attacking the government.
It's a call for reform from both sides of the aisle, but it's not clear how that reform would be achieved. A few more feet of snow this weekend was no surprise in New York, nor were ice storms in the northern plains, rain in Florida, and snow in the Rockies and Cascades. But the tornado that hit San Francisco without warning was a shock to many. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
A rare Central California tornado touched down Saturday in Scotts Valley, tossing cars, uprooting trees, and sending several people to the hospital.
In San Francisco, we found evidence of 80-mile-per-hour winds, straight-line thunderstorm-associated winds that did quite a bit of tree damage and tore off a few roofs from some housing units and did quite a bit of damage to trees falling on cars.
The National Weather Service says it's the first since records have been kept. Meteorologist Dalton Behringer.
In Scotts Valley, we found evidence of an EF1 tornado that produced winds up to 90 miles per hour. Based on our preliminary storm report, a few cars were tossed in the roadway, overturned in parking lots, and quite a bit of tree damage and some damage to the infrastructure there on the roadway through Scotts Valley.
In San Francisco, 80-mile-per-hour winds did damage, but did not rise to a tornado.
We're not on to something new and unprecedented here. It's kind of more like luck of the draw.
Elsewhere, more than a foot of snow fell at some Lake Tahoe ski resorts. A 112-mile-per-hour gust was recorded at Mammoth Mountain. A major ice storm hit parts of the Midwest, and in some parts of western New York, residents were cleaning up from up to 3.5 feet of snow. I'm Julie Walker.
Another big tech leader heads for South Florida to meet with Trump. We'll tell you which one and why when America in the Morning returns. Stay with us. The clock is ticking louder against the Chinese-owned social media app TikTok, as the company that operates it has suffered another legal setback. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
A federal appeals court has left in place a mid-January deadline in a federal law requiring TikTok to be sold or face a ban in the United States. The court rejected a request made by the company to halt enforcement until the Supreme Court reviews its challenge of the statute. Attorneys for TikTok and its China-based company ByteDance are expected to appeal to the Supreme Court. It's unclear if the nation's highest court will take up the case, though some legal experts have said they expect the justices to weigh in due to the types of novel questions it raises about social media, national security, and the First Amendment. I'm Norman Hall.
If you live in Rhode Island, you may be the victim of a cyber attack. The New York Times reporting that the personal and private information of possibly hundreds of thousands of people who applied for government assistance in Rhode Island could be in the hands of hackers. The hackers gained access to RI Bridges, the state's online portal for obtaining social services, which includes Medicare, SNAP benefits, and is the online portal for the state's healthcare marketplace. Authorities say anyone who's applied for or received benefits through those programs since 2016 could be impacted. There's reaction to the shocking new development in the 2006 Duke lacrosse rape case. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
A woman who falsely accused Duke University lacrosse players of rape in 2006 publicly admits she lied. Crystal Magnum, who is black, said she was raped by 3 white Duke lacrosse players at a party where she was hired to perform as a stripper.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong.
Magnum spoke on the Let's Talk with Kat podcast.
I wanted validation from people and not from God.
The former Duke players were declared innocent in 2007 after Magnum's story fell apart under legal scrutiny. She is in a North Carolina prison for the stabbing death of her boyfriend in 2011. Magnum hopes the 3 falsely accused men can forgive her. I'm Ed Donahue.
Another big tech leader has made a visit to Mar-a-Lago. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
President-elect Trump hosted Apple CEO Tim Cook for dinner at his Florida resort. That from a person familiar with the meeting but not authorized to comment publicly. Trump has said he's recently spoken with Cook about the company's long-running tax battles with the European Union. That was after Apple lost its last appeal to avoid paying 13 billion euros in back taxes to Ireland. Cook's the latest in a string of big tech leaders seeking to improve their standing with the incoming president after choppy relations during his first term. Those have included OpenAI Sam Altman, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, and Amazon's Jeff Bezos. All 3 are planning to make million-dollar donations to Trump's inauguration fund, Altman as a personal contribution. I'm Ben Thomas.
There's opposition already coming in from a leading member of the GOP for an apparent anti-vaccine idea being explored by the incoming Trump administration. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
The top Republican in the Senate has a comment for those who might be thinking of lifting the required polio vaccine for children.
It took 7 decades to come up with 2 effective polio vaccines.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says anyone in the incoming Trump administration who has to go before the Senate for confirmation should, quote, steer clear of any effort to discredit the polio vaccine. The statement appears aimed at Robert F. Kennedy Jr., tapped for health secretary, after a report revealed a Kennedy advisor in 2022 filed a petition to revoke approval for the polio vaccine. McConnell brought up his fight with polio.
I've been a lifelong champion of vaccination.
In 2021, when appealing to Americans who were resisting the COVID vaccine. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Amazon workers voted overwhelmingly to strike last week with only a few delivery days left before Christmas. What does this mean for your delivery? Here's Chuck Palm with today's Tech News.
Teamsters at 2 separate New York facilities voted to authorize strikes due to Amazon's illegal refusal to recognize their union and negotiate a contract addressing low wages and dangerous working conditions. This year's strike was the 5th year that demonstrations were held over Cyber Weekend. Eileen Hards, Amazon spokesperson, said in an emailed statement, the Teamsters have continued to intentionally mislead the public, claiming they represent thousands of Amazon employees and drivers. Amazon has pushed back on the accusations, claiming that the global union is being intentionally misleading and continues to promote a false narrative. This is not the first time Amazon has faced labor disputes, with the National Labor Relations Board ruling in favor of the workers on multiple occasions and found Amazon guilty of violating labor laws at one of the New York warehouses. For updated tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman has sports.
NFL Week 15 Sunday, the Chiefs chewed up the Browns 21-7 to improve to 13-1. Patrick Mahomes with 2 TD passes and 1 X-ray on his ankle. That came back negative. A pair of potential Super Bowl matchups. The Bills won a shootout with the Lions 48-42. Josh Allen threw for 2 TDs and ran for 2, while Jared Goff had 494 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air in the loss, ending their 11-game winning streak. The Eagles stopped the Steelers 27-13. Jalen Hurts threw for 2 and ran for 1. Bengals topped the Titans. Joe Burrow, 3 touchdown passes. He now has a new franchise record of 36. He held the old record, too. Commanders held off the Saints, denying New Orleans on a winning 2-point try on the final play of the game. Ravens routed the Giants, 5 scoring passes for Lamar Jackson. Coach John Harbaugh.
He just had a great game. He's been locked in. He's been locked in all season. He was locked in all week. He's on the guys, meetings, walkthroughs, everything. Just keeping it about football, and getting the football right.
The G-men have dropped 9 straight. Buccaneers blasted the Chargers, 4 TD tosses for Baker Mayfield. Broncos had 5 takeaways in their win over the Colts. Texans forced 4 turnovers as they downed the Dolphins. Jets, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Packers won. Tonight it's a twofer on Monday Night Football. The Bears at the Vikings and the Falcons at the Raiders. NBA, the Mavericks whipped the Warriors 143-133, a triple-double for Luka Doncic, including a season-high 45 points. Anthony Davis had 40 points and 16 rebounds as the Lakers ended the Grizzlies' 4-game winning streak. Wins for the Celtics, Knicks, Timberwolves, Suns, and Pacers. NHL, the Maple Leafs slashed the Sabres 5-3. John Tavares with a hat trick. That's 10 losses in a row for Buffalo. Wins for the Blackhawks, Hurricanes, Blues, and Golden Knights. That's Monday Sports.
2 familiar movie titles at the top of the weekend box office. We'll go to the movies when America in the Morning returns. Hang with us. It was another chart-topping weekend for Moana and Wicked. Kevin Carr has the best of the box office.
In the lead up to Christmas, there was only coal in the stockings for the newcomers at the box office this weekend.
The ocean connects us.
The Polynesian heroine Moana 2 remained atop the box office with $27 million. This girl power family adventure is currently vying for the big win of the fall and number 3 at the 2024 box office.
So serious.
Moana's biggest competition?
That was you who made all that happen.
Wicked held on to the number 2 spot with $22 million, showing impressive staying power and greasing the wheels for the sequel next year.
How did you do it? I don't know.
Both these previous releases destroyed the latest attempt by Sony to cash in on Marvel profits.
We are hunters, the greatest the world has ever known.
Kraven the Hunter cratered in its debut, eking out a terrible $11 million for the weekend. This is the lowest opening by Sony for a Marvel or Spider-Man release ever.
The arena turned slaves into gladiators, the gladiators into free men.
Behind the R-rated Marvel villain was Ridley Scott's R-rated Gladiator 2 in fourth place with $7.8 million.
You do not seek an alliance. You seek a throne.
The animated Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, clawed its way into fifth place with $4.6 million. However, since this film was primarily rushed into production so the studio could hold on to the film rights to Tolkien's books, it was not critical to be a hit. I'm Kevin Carr.
Aaron Pierre and Nicholas Alexander Chavez were just two of the people who made the list of the Associated Press Breakthrough Entertainers of the Year. Correspondent Margie Zaraletta has details.
He in love with Glow.
Rapper Glorilla, actor Aaron Pierre of the thriller Rebel Ridge, and actor Nicholas Alexander Chavez of Monsters, The Lyle and Eric Menendez Story, and Grotesquerie are among the AP's Breakthrough Entertainers of the Year.
My teachers, who didn't see much of me because I didn't really love going to class, all came up to me and said, you really ought to think about doing this as a career. Which I thought was interesting because not many kids in Denver got told this. It's not really part of our infrastructure the way that it is in LA and maybe even New York.
Actor Myhala says it's funny she became famous for the HBO series Industry when she had intended to be a theater actor.
This has actually been sort of a very happy accident and surprise that I have any career at all in TV film, but I really, really love it.
The other breakthrough entertainers are Broadway actor Malia Joy Moon, actor Fred Heckinger of Gladiator 2, and actor Adria Ahona of Blink Twice and Hitman. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
America in the Morning for Monday, December 16th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.